what Moshe said, you would believe, you would accept me, you would accept my words. For Moshe himself said, Yahweh will raise up for you a prophet like me from among your brothers. You are to listen to everything he tells you. Everyone who fails to listen to that prophet will be removed from the people and destroyed. Indeed, all the prophets announced these days. Now see, now this is what he just did. First, he's letting us know, Brother Kepha that is. First, Kepha is Peter. First, the brother is letting us know Moshe gave this prophecy that there's going to be a prophet that's going to arise like him. Right? But then he goes on to say, indeed, and this is verse 24, all the prophets announced these days. In other words, all the prophets after Moshe, they were all talking about a day where the prophet was going to come. It says, starting with Shemuel and continuing through all who follow. You are the sons of the prophets, and you are included in the covenant which Elohim made with our fathers when he said to Abraham, by your seed will all the families of the earth be blessed. So it is to you first that Elohim has sent his servant Yahushua, whom he has raised up, so that he might bless you by turning each one of you from your evil ways. So what he just mentioned now, what Brother Kevin just did, he's letting them know the prophet that Moshe was writing about, this was Yahushua. He's that prophet. The prophet. Now what's interesting, when it comes to Mashiach or Messiah or anointed one, right? There are three particulars in Holy Scripture that are anointed. Prophets, priests, kings. If you fall under any of these categories, technically speaking, you are a Messiah. And let me show you how that works. In Hebrew, right, there's a word. Let me do it this way. Mem, Shin, Chet. Okay, this word right here is Mashach. Okay, Mashach. Now this word means to anoint. Right? Now, the word Mem, Shin, Chet. Mashach. The way that this works, right? Hebrew language. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put a little markup in here. And what this is, you may not be able to see it that good, but this is supposed to be a yod. Okay? So you got Mem, Shin, Yod, Chet. Mem, Shin, Yod, Chet. So the term Mashach, when you have that Yod infixed, it's called an infix. In the Hebrew language, you can change a word by adding a word as a prefix, adding a word as a suffix, or not a word, a letter, I'm sorry, by adding a letter as a prefix, adding a letter as a suffix, or adding a letter as an infix. You can alter the meaning of the word just slightly, because it's not going to totally change the meaning of the word, but what it does is this. Instead of mashach, which means to anoint, when you add that yod to it, it means one who is anointed. Mashiach. One who is anointed. So when you look at all prophets, technically speaking, are messiahs. All priests, technically speaking, are messiahs. All kings, technically speaking, are messiahs. Why? Because they are one who has been anointed. Okay? I wanted to make that distinction because we're not just talking about a prophet, a priest, a king. We're talking about the prophet, the priest, the king, with that definite article. It's important that we recognize that because when it comes to Messiah, we're not talking about Mashiach in a general sense. We're talking about, let's add something here. We're talking about Ha-Mashiach, the Messiah, the one who is anointed. Okay? And that's different. All right. Let's get back to what we were talking about. So, now Brother Stephen in Acts chapter 7, he basically reiterates the same passage that Brother Kepha mentioned. So he says, this is the Moshe who said to the people of Israel, Elohim will raise up a prophet like me from among your brothers. This is the man who was in the assembly in the wilderness, and he's talking about Moshe right now, accompanied by the angel that had spoken to him at Mount Sinai and by our fathers, the man who was given living words to pass on to us. Now, both Brother Kepha and Brother Stephen, they are quoting something that Moshe said. And they are both quoting what Moshe said in reference to supporting the idea that Yahushua is that prophet. So let's go to what Moshe said. And this is in Devarim, which is in Deuteronomy chapter 18, starting at verse 15. Yahweh, your mighty one, will raise up to you a prophet from among you of your brothers like me. You shall listen to him. Now, excuse me, couple things. Let's go back and let's look at something about Moshe real quick. Matter of fact, let me pull it up. And I'm going to a passage that's not up on the board, so I'll let you know once I get there. It's something that he told Moshe. Right? Because initially Moshe didn't want to do it. So this is what he told him. I'm going to Shemot, which is Exodus chapter 4. And let's start at verse 13. And this is Moshe talking. He said, O my Adonai, send, I pray thee, by the hand of him whom you will send. It's like, he's like, send somebody else, in other words. Verse 14. And the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Moshe. And he said, is not Aharon, Halewi, or the Levite, your brother? I know that he can speak well. And also, behold, he comes forth to meet you. And when he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. And you shall speak to him and put words in his mouth. Now, listen to what he's telling Moshe to do. Because, again, when we're reading this, this is a historical document, right? But he's also teaching us something. Because there's a comparative aspect, there's the allegorical aspect, there's the spiritual, etc. Right? He's telling Moshe, you shall speak to him and put words in his mouth, and I will be with your mouth and with his mouth and will teach you what you shall do. Right? That's a beautiful expression of what a prophet is. And a priest. Because both Moshe and Aharon were both prophet and priest. Listen to what he said. I will be with your mouth and with his mouth. In other words, when people hear the prophet or the priest speaking, we oftentimes have an issue and we focus on the messenger, the man, maybe his faults, maybe his error. Because I'll be one of the first to tell you, I am an imperfect being. I am a sinner. I am saved by the grace, the mercy, the compassion, the loving kindness of the Most High. But that does not negate the fact that Abba shows you things. Okay. Verse 16. And he, talking about Aharon or Aaron, and he shall be your spokesman unto the people. And he shall be, even he shall be to you instead of a mouth. And you shall be to him instead of Elohim. Now when he says that, what he just did, he just put Moshe in a position of being like him. In other words, and don't take this the wrong way. Moshe was Yahweh on earth. Listen to what he just said. He shall be to you instead of a mouth. So now listen to that. Now, walk with me for just a moment. When he said that to Moshe, right? He's representing Aharon. He's saying that Aharon is going to be to Moshe instead of a mouth. I just wanted to take that part right there and think about it. Because if Aharon is both a prophet and a priest, right? What is the Creator teaching us indirectly about a prophet and a priest? The prophet and the priest is the mouth of Elohim. That's what he's teaching us. Now, in this particular example, what we want to look at is what he's doing with Moshe, because what Moshe said in Devarim or Deuteronomy is that Yahweh is going to raise up a prophet like him. Right? Again, he shall be to you instead of a mouth, and you shall be to him instead of Elohim. So Moshe, once again, is comparable to being Yahweh on the earth. Okay? Keep that thought in mind. Because there's a prophet coming that's going to be like him. Now, who was this prophet Moshe referred to? And the answer, of course, is going to be twofold. And what I mean by that is this. What Abba often does in his word, if he gives a prophecy, and here's the other thought about Abba. Let me erase this. Another thought about Abba. When Abba speaks, past, present, future can become one. Okay? The past, the present, future can become one. What I mean by that is this. Abba can speak, matter of fact, Yeshayahu, Isaiah, he said this. Calling those things from the end at the beginning. He says, and from ancient times, right? He's going to be able to tell us things in the future, in the beginning. So when we look at it, just take Bereshit, just take the book of Genesis, right? Just take that. There are prophecies in Genesis that haven't been fulfilled yet. Genesis. When we look at Genesis, people look at Genesis as strictly being the historical. There is the historical part of it. But let's not forget, it's also prophetic. That's how Abba's word is. And I'm saying that in regard to what I'm about to tell you. Now, as far as this being twofold, what Abba's going to do, he's going to say, through Moshe, I'm going to raise up a prophet like you, right? Okay. So the people, they have to see that this word has been fulfilled. So he did that. He raised up a prophet like Moshe. And we're going to see. Let's go to the Midbar, chapter 13, which is Numbers. Starting in verse 1. Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, send men, that they may spy out the land of Canaan, or Canaan, which I give to the sons of Israel. Of every tribe of their fathers you shall send a man, every one a prince among them. Moshe sent them from the wilderness of Paran according to the commandment of Yahweh. All of them were men who were heads of the sons of Israel. These were their names, and then it goes on to name all of the different men. There were 12 men. Of course, one man from each of the tribes, 12 tribes, right? Let's drop down to verse 8. It says, of the tribe of Ephraim, Hushai, the son of Nun. Hushai, the son of Nun. Very, very, very important. There's a lot there, you know. And let's look at it. Let's look at it from this perspective. Let's just make a comparison, right? Look up the term Ephraim, right? What that means is double fruit. Double fruit. So right there, okay, just with this little example, when you understand what the fruit is, right? Now, of course, the word fruit here is coming from a different root. But what we're doing right now, we're simply making a comparison. Remember when we talked about the root, the parent root, the biliteral root for the word prophet, the nun and the bet, those two letters, the nun representing the seed, the bet representing the house. So you have the seed inside, nun, bet, and that word nun, bet also is represented in Holy Scripture as fruit. Think about that. Now, like I said, we're making a comparison. The word fruit, as far as the term Ephraim is concerned, it's a different word, but the concept, the idea of double fruit is still there. Okay? Now, look at it in the context of being a twofold meaning to this. Right? Because not only is this talking about Hushai or Hosea, the son of Nun, it is also a reference to someone else. Twofold. Let's drop down to verse 16, Numbers chapter 13. It says, these are the names of the men whom Moshe sent to spy out the land. Moshe called Hushai, the son of Nun, Yahushua. You hear what's going on? So let's do this. Let's look at these names now. So we have these up here, right? I'm going to write some other stuff up on the board too. Okay. The first name we have, it comes from the Hebrew lexicon 1954. That is Hushai or Hosea. That name simply means deliverer. Okay? Now what is it from? It is derived from number 3467. That word is Yasha, which means to make safe. Now this is what we want to do, so we can understand how the Hebrew works. So, the name Hushai, right? You will spell it Hey, Wa, you have the Shin. I'll do the Shin a better way. I kind of mixed it up the last time. Ayin, okay? Hey, Wa, Shin, Ayin. Alright. Now you have, this is where you get the ha 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 sound. And there's a hau, 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 haush, haushea, 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 or hushea. Okay? Now, what he did when he says he changed his name, all Moshe did, he added another letter to it. He added the letter Yod. Now, in Holy Scripture, before this person's name was changed, we don't have any record of anybody else who had this name. This is the first time this name appears in Holy Scripture. Now, Hold up, brother. It appears in this chapter, this verse. I'm not talking about in that context. I'm talking about historically speaking. Because what we're being told here is that Moshe changed his name. When he was born to Nun called him Hosea. Moshe said, we're going to change that. I'm going to add this Yod to it, and it's going to be Yod He Wav Shin Ayin now. Yahusha. But we're going to call him Joshua just to make that distinction. And what's the distinction that we're talking about? The successor, the direct successor of Moshe versus the Messiah. Because something's going on right here. See, when it said that, that Yahweh going to raise up a prophet to you like me, then this, what we're going to see, he's next in line. ABBA was actually teaching us, he was actually showing us who that prophet was going to be. And it was by direct revelation through this person, Joshua, whose name is pronounced the exact same way as Messiah, Yahushua. Okay? Let's go to some other terms now. Now, this word, Hosea, is supposed to be derived from this. So let's understand how that works. A lot of times in Strong's, because they were at the time still learning a lot of things about the Hebrew language, and you know, we've learned a lot more. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's coming from this word, but here's what it is. The word Yoshin Ayin. Yoshin Ayin, right? That's the word Yasha. Now, this right here is an addition to this. Because like we talked about, this is considered to be a child root. Okay? But when you break it down to its least common denominator, you have what's called the parent root or the biliteral root. Every Hebrew word has a two-letter origin. And you have the father and the mother. Right? Now the shin, if you write this in pictographic form, which I did a little earlier, you have the two front teeth, and then of course the ayin would be the eye. Okay? So you have the shin and the ayin. The shin representing the two front teeth, it has the connotation of being a destroyer. Think in the context of a devourer. What do your teeth do? Your teeth breaks down the food that you're consuming so that, you know, instead of swallowing big chunks, you know, sometimes, and I'm sure some of you may have experienced this, you're so hungry that you don't even give yourself enough time to chew your food. Then you find yourself straining, struggling to swallow because you're so hungry, and you got these big chunks going down your throat, and sometimes it hurts. I'm guilty of doing that, but what we're supposed to be doing, you're supposed to be chewing your food, breaking it down so that it'll smoothly go down your throat, and it won't cause a lot of problems. So you got the idea of being a destroyer with the shin, right? I mean, not to mention the fact that your teeth are also sharp. But then you have the eye. And one of the things that you do with the eye is what? You watch. Right? So you look, you have the destroyer who watches. Okay? So when you think about a destroyer who watches, think about it in the context of protector. Right? Because the word Yasha, it has the meaning of to be safe. And let me read that to you. Coming from number 3, 4, 6, 7. It says properly to be open, to be wide, to be free. By implication, to be safe. Causatively, to free or succor. The underlying idea of this verb is bringing to a place of safe